Review of literature. The purpose of reviewing literature is to evaluate the previous studies in regard to sampling methods, faulty techniques, and unfounded conclusions. There must be a thorough review of literature to give theoretical background of earlier studies related to the problem been investigated. The researcher should also show that the previous studies have not solved the problem adequately. This section is your contribution to knowledge. It summarizes the state of knowledge in the field. In this section, the researcher is expected to indicate the similarities and differences between his/her study and the previous studies relevant to his/her study. In general, this section should not be more than a third of the size of your research. In this part of the research specifically and in other parts in general, students' attention should be drawn to proper quoting and paraphrasing of material borrowed from different sources. Plagiarism and paraphrasing. Plagiarism is direct copying of others' words. Quoting or paraphrasing without crediting your sources is a serious violation of academic ethics and rules, and it is illegal. You can easily avoid this serious mistake by introducing your quotations and paraphrases with the names of authorities from whom you have borrowed the material and by providing specific page number citations. For example, Lester, 1999, tongue sticking out. Point 12, thinks that students learn to document ideas in their notes and incorporate them clearly in the manuscript. Paraphrasing is to use your own words to indicate that you have borrowed some ideas from other people. You should be honest in not changing what the others want to say. Paraphrasing, like quoting, requires the crediting of your sources without using quotation marks, but if one word or phrase cannot be changed, it should be enclosed within single inverted commas to acknowledge that it is not your word or phrase. Rules for avoiding plagiarism. Let the reader know when you begin borrowing from a source by introducing a quotation or a paraphrase with the name of the authority. Enclose within quotation marks all quoted materials. Make certain that paraphrased material has been rewritten into your own style and language. The simple rearrangement of sentence patterns is unacceptable. Provide specific in-text documentation for each borrowed item, but keep in mind that styles differ. MLA, APA, etc. Provide bibliography entry in the work cited for every source cited in the research. Methodology. Population and sample. Population means the universal of subjects that the researcher intends to generalize his/her study problem results on them. The researcher will not be able to study the whole population, so a study sample is chosen. The probability methods of sampling require the specification of the study population, preparation of a list of its subjects, and then choice of a reasonable sample that represents the whole population. This will allow the generalization of the study findings. Full description of the target population and how the subjects are chosen should be given. The researcher should explain how the size of the study sample is determined and how representative it is to the entire population. One type of sampling is the simple random sample, which gives every subject a chance to be chosen as a study subject. The sample size should be adequate to represent the whole population. In the descriptive studies, the sample size is recommended as follows: 20% to represent some hundreds, 10% to represent some thousands, 5% to represent tens of thousands. Problems of questionnaire designing. Avoid ambiguous, unclear technical items. Make sure the questions are not too complicated or difficult to be answered by your subjects. Do not ask two questions in one question. For example, the following question is unanswerable. Do you support the privatization of electricity in Sudan? Or do you support the continuation of the present policy? Avoid long items. Avoid negative and double negative items. Avoid biased questions. The interview. An interview is one way of administering a face-to-face questionnaire. To have an effective interview, follow these steps. Explain how you choose your subjects. Choose a suitable place and time. Prepare appropriate questions by stating the objectives of the interview, identifying the population and choosing the study sample, writing the interview questions and they are going to be asked. Effectuate the interview by practicing interviewing a small sample, administering the interview. Record the interview results right then. Tests. There are two types of tests: criterion reference tests and norm reference tests. The criterion reference tests are used to compare the performance of students in a normal distribution with each other, while the norm reference tests are used to find out what the students have achieved when studying a certain material. Like other tools of data gathering, the reliability and validity should be ensured for these tests. The methods of analysis. How you are going to analyze your data, how your hypotheses will be tested, and what computer programs will be used should all be detailed. If any section of this chapter is questionable, your findings will be doubtful. Reliability. Reliability means consistency. Pearson correlation coefficient. Methods of testing reliability. 1. Test-retest method. Remember length of time. It is also called coefficient of stability. Parallel forms method. Equivalent forms A and B forms. It is widely used. The longer the period between the two tests, the lower the reliability coefficient. 3. The split half method. Only one test is needed. Here we have T odd-numbered and even-numbered scores from each paper answered correctly. It is called coefficient of internal consistency. We use Spearman-Brown formula to make up for dividing the test into two halves. R equals 2 rho. 1 plus rho. R equals reliability of the original test. Rho equals reliability of odd-even numbers. E.g., R equals 0.84, so 2.84 / 1 plus 0.84 equals 0.91. Writing a research report. The research report should be communicated in a cohesive, coherent manner. Use the vocabulary of the discipline in a simple way which shows your knowledge and understanding of the conventions of the profession. Your research shows your competence as a researcher. Tips for clear writing. The best writing is clear and understandable. Use simple wording and style. Avoid excessive use of abbreviations. Use short, clear sentences. Short paragraphs are easier to understand. Use the third-person pronouns and avoid using the first-person pronouns such as I and we. Use headings and subheadings of different degrees to divide your text. Present tables and figures properly. They should be clearly titled and numbered. Pay attention to the tenses you are using. Use future tense in the proposal. Use past tense when reviewing the literature unless referring to current issues. Use the past tense for the design or procedures like saying, the sample was selected. Use the present tense to describe and discuss the results, e.g., this shows that. 10. Avoid excessive use of the passive voice. 11. Check spelling. 12. Quotations and paraphrases should be used properly. Refer to Chapter 2. 13. The word data is usually plural. 14. Minimize the use of figurative language.